Hello everybody, it's the Alco Diesel Guy with another project. This is an RS11. Let me zoom in a little bit more actually and get a little bit better view for you. Get some lights on here. Again, this is an RS11. I'm ashamed to admit I did pay more than this actual price on it because these things are getting very rare now. The main issue it has is, well, actually twofold. It's got some visual as well as mechanical issues, or detailing issues, or I don't know, something along those lines issues. Let me show you what we have here. First look, as we can see, she's definitely a 10-footer. The railings are in place, but they are just barely in place. They're completely off the wall. Not even close to mounting. So, definitely going to have to work on this. It's also missing a few. There's one right over here in the front that's gone, I should mention. And there's one, and both of the front railings are gone. It's not clear as to how that happened. It always seems to happen on the front railings on these suckers. So bottom line, this thing needs help. Mechanically, it's also pretty badly, well, basically shot, for lack of a better term. Previous owner had said when I bought this thing off of eBay that the unit only turned with the help, and I see why now. It's pretty well rusted shut. I can't even move this motor. I don't know how we got this thing to turn at all. Yeah, this motor is going to need a lot of help to make it work again. Luckily, I can rebuild this, and I plan to. Again, it's just a standard DC board on it. What I have over here is another RS11. This is actually a parts engine. I used this already in part to repair my other D&H locomotive. You can see it's missing its side railings. I have two of these engines, as it turns out. This one, if I remember correctly, got stepped on or dropped. I think it was stepped on or fell off a chair or fell off a table. I still can't remember. Actually, I can't remember which one it was. One Christmas or fell off the layout one Christmas and got damaged. The horn got lost and a few other parts got broken on it. I wound up by accident actually buying one with a DCC decoder on it, or I found a deal on it. I forgot what happened. Anyway, I started using that engine, tried to convert that to sound, and then I lost interest in N scale and it went away. In more recent times, I went back to it and basically took the chassis out of this one, which was DCC equipped and functioning. The other one I attempted to do the sound on, which didn't come out right, and I just swapped them out. And so I had the working chassis under the good body. The chassis that was in this one then got put in the D&H unit and then got its DCC decoder basically reinstalled so where it would work, because the original sound install was messed up. Luckily, it had a DCC decoder in it. I fixed that and got it working. So now this has the D&H's actual decoder, actual chassis in it. It has the trucks, though, from that particular engine, which is fine because the Burlington Northern's trucks are also black. So what I'm going to do here is use this as a part source to rebuild this engine, since I already have one with the same number on it. First thing is first, let's get the chassis, let's get the shell off its chassis here. This one's going to be a little bit harder to move. There it is. Just gently pull on it and it comes right up. As you can see, in sharp contrast to these two engines, you can see the one over here is just completely corroded and rusted out. I'm not even sure that's salvageable. I'll have to look at that later on. But this one I know will work because it already does. It's in really good shape. And it will be the one I'm ultimately going to use. But this one I'm going to have to mess with. Maybe I'll try working on it. Maybe I'll try soaking it in something to get rid of the rust. But when they get this badly corroded, it usually is pretty tricky to bring them back to life. It almost looks like this was stepped on, too. If you look, there's just no room for it to spin in there. This thing really, you can tell, was stored in humidity, and it really did not do very well. So I got to be really careful with these things, folks. Try to avoid, if you're going to put them in long-term storage, try to avoid throwing them in like a shed, as I found some of these I've recovered. You know, keep them someplace indoors, keep them in something resembling a dry environment so it doesn't rust up, because this thing here, wow. This thing probably will need a new motor if I can save that motor on it. Whereas this one over here, as you can see in sharp contrast to how hard that was to rotate, this thing, with no effort at all, it just spins. So obviously this is going to be the base I'm going to use. It doesn't make any sense to tear the other one apart. If I already have this one sitting around perfectly, why would I rip the parts out of this to put them in that one? I will eventually try to get that one going, although right now I don't have a need for it. I just need to have something like this that'll work. Next step is to deal with what railings are missing. I got my front railing here for that. Is gone on the Burlington Northern unit. This one here has one, although unfortunately it looks like these parts got broken off. Again, this thing got stepped on, I think, and now that kind of confirms it did. So I'm going to have to basically glue this back into place. Actually, no, they weren't actually. They were pulled out safely. I thought, oh, I see. I was just seeing the reflection from the plastic. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this in place. Not exactly the right color. As you see, it should be green, but I have seen these units with black railings, so I guess it sort of looks okay. Logic being, again, what I always use with these engines. I may repaint this at one point, but what a lot of times I like to say is, yeah, well, you see the short line railroad. My short line railroader that's operating this Alco didn't have the budget, so they just kind of pulled whatever part they could get and just ran it like it was. Which is the case. You'll find a lot of railroads don't repaint their engines because it gets very expensive. I'm just going to gently push this in place. Hopefully without bending or breaking anything. Okay, so this is a Hobby Tools set, which I got from either, I'm thinking, a Hobby Lobby or a hobby shop that was closing. I think this is from a Hobby Lobby. I think I have just the right tools in here for it. So let's go grab this one right here. This is essentially a tweezer set. I use the angled tweezers to see if I can get it in. I think I'll grab this needle nose tweezer as well in case I need that. Just to the side. Let's get going here and see if I can get this shell put to something resembling use. Let's now move this chassis, which I plan to put on, over to the side. Don't need to get that in the way. I'm just going to pull this right here. Really throwing this, I'm just going to grab it and pull it right in place. Pardon the rough camera work. It's just very, very tricky to see what I'm doing here. And there's a reason why these engines do not sell well when they're damaged in terms of their railings, because it is very difficult to work on them. So anyone here, if anyone is thinking about buying it, look, think long, think hard, think smart. If you're wondering why I'm using a parts engine, I guess I should mention it right now. Parts for these engines, even the railings, are impossible to come by at this point. You just can't find them anywhere. So if you're going to work on one of these, you better have an engine in handy that you can tear apart for parts in terms of detail parts. The motor parts are a little bit easier to come by, but detail parts like these, the railings, etc., those, yep. Ask a guy in the parts store and you're pretty much asking for the elusive dodo bird, because no one's going to know what you're looking for. No one's going to have what you're looking for, I should say. The reason being is that these have been out of production for a while. This run I think that I got that this engine came from was from 2005. And it being 2023 now, that's old for even model railroading years. Okay, so that's just about as good as it's going to get. Doesn't look too bad. Now I'm going to work on this railing here. I guess I could, but that's actually the easy stuff. Let's deal with one more. I got to get the two front porch railings, which I do have here for my engine, which is this, again, this Northern Pacific number 911. Ooh, I just ripped this. Oh, I just broke the front. Let me try pulling this off with the tweezers. Because these were not meant to be pulled off, so if you're, no matter how careful you are, there's always a chance you're going to break it, and I think I just broke it again. Well, I got that one. Okay, that one came off safely. Let's see if I can get this on the front now, even though it's partly damaged. Partly damaged railing is better than no railing at all. Interesting. Let's see if we can get rid of this stupid thing here. Do I really want to grab a pair of pliers? I don't think I do, because I just cannot get this piece out of here. I mean, I certainly did a good job of putting that first railing that once was in here in place. You can tell, but two holes right on the top. Oh, for God's sake! I just ripped it. Oh, I ruined it. No, now I definitely have to glue that one. Let's work on the rear now. Carefully remove this. I'm having more luck just using my fingers. That's not the way you're supposed to do it, but if it works, it works. There we go. Those two are out. This will go on the back here. I'll work on this one next. Do all the gluing at once with this thing. Okay, these two railings here are just shot. They're sitting out here. See if I have a finer pair of tweezers. Okay, let's see if these do any better. Not quite. Actually, I think these are too fine to get this out of here. Let's try these again. There's no grip on these, which is the problem. So I have a choice. The ones that aren't big enough, the ones that are too fine, and the ones that aren't fine enough. Ah, that one came out. Yes. Okay, that works. Let's get this one out now. And this one I managed to pull clear, so it will go. So the other one should go right in. Now grab this hold of this one here, and there it goes, right out. Perfect. That's what I should have been using all along. Wish I had found these a little bit sooner. Okay, so let's find the one that's in the best shape to put this in. It's the one that's broken off. This one here, I think, survived a little bit better. Gotta now carefully line up these locating holes right over here with the actual porch railing. There are two of these little points at the bottom here that have to line up with those two holes in there, as you see. They're very fine, but if you can get them in, that's the half the battle right there. You have to gently apply pressure here, enough to make it fit in, but not enough to break it. I think I just pulled it off. Yes, that is a success. Now I've got these other things out of here. So the one may have been a disaster, but this one isn't. I think I may have, let's see if I have another part. I don't think I have another one of these railings, so I may have to reuse that other one. Gently apply pressure here. Oh, it doesn't look, oh, the other side isn't in. Oh, God. Get that one back in place. Come on. Yes, that's in place. Okay. So I just have to gently put pressure on this side here. Nerve-wracking as hell. Grab my... Come on, you... Oh, well, that takes care of that. I broke the bottom off. Okay, well, I guess that's better than nothing. Well, I knew it wasn't going to be perfect, but still, at least it's in there pretty well now. It's not going anywhere. That's pretty tight in there. I may hit some glue on top of it just to make sure. And I think I'm pretty much ready to start gluing here, but first I want to get these other railings in position. These all are in existence, but they're kind of messed up. I want to see if I can bend them back into alignment and make them fit. Let's deal with these side railings. So again, I'm just going to grab each one of these and carefully pull it down into the slot. And I think these will just go right back in because they're not too badly damaged. I ruined the front one already. Let me see if I can. I think I have another front porch railing. So before I go through the hell of that one, I may just use that because I really want to avoid gluing this thing any way I can because I've seen what that can do to these models. Had it happen to me on HO scale models, and I've seen it with too many of these N scale models I've bought that they get trashed, and then their value is just significantly reduced because they'll never be the same again. There we go, it's in. Hooray, that's in. It's funny how that just slipped into place. Now I just have to push this in here. Should have probably maybe done this first, but I think I can just do it like this. Got this little wire, this little hook right here. I'm just going to shove that back with my tweezers. Let's see if I can just make it drop right into that slot. Yes, there we go. Yes. Push it in a little bit now. Yeah, that's it. All right. Yes. So now that whole side here looks a lot better. You'd never guess it was that much of a basket case when I got it. Except for the porch, which I'll have to find another railing for. I guess it's going to really look like I put together when I'm done with this, but this one actually isn't too bad here at all. They're mostly in place. I just need to push these two back in alignment. These super small tweezers. I'm not sure where I got these from, but they're really coming in handy. There we go. Push this in. Oh, and that's nice and stuck in there. Now this needs to get pushed back a little bit and then pushed down to get it to slip in. There we go. Trick is that there's enough pressure on this that all you have to do is give it a hole to go into and it'll just slip right in place. I think. I hope Hooray, it worked. So we got that done now too. Now I just have to do this other side front panel here, which is still pretty much in position. It just needs to have these stanchions realigned into the holes. The stanchions themselves are not damaged, they're just not in the holes. Strangely enough, it looks like, again, whoever the heck had their hands on this, either an inexperienced model railroader. And I'm just going to press this one into the little hole down here. I think I have these two. These aren't quite aligned right, but I think the holes look like they've been ripped off. No, actually, no, this might go in. Let's try this one first. You have to sort of have confidence with this. You have to sort of be willing to take it and pull it. It's a little nerve-wracking, and you will break them, no doubt, at some points. But if you don't, there's just no way these things will align themselves, I find. You have to just sort of take the leap of faith, grab it, and hope that you don't break something and pull it into position. I don't necessarily like using that tactic, but it's about all that seems to work here. Okay, so that is pretty much as good as it's going to get. It looks much better than it was. If these things sit here a while, they'll unwarp themselves, hopefully, and it'll look better. So I think this is pretty much as good as it's going to get for this unit. Now it's time to glue the last component on, which is this front railing, which I managed to, well, mess up pretty badly. Botch, if you will. And, well, anyway, I'm going to be forced to use therefore glue. So here's how I handle this. First thing to remember is less is more. You don't want to use too much glue, and you want to have control of your glue application. So I'm going to use in this case is just some off-the-shelf clear glue from Gorilla. I think I got this at my local Walmart. I forgot how long ago. What we're going to do is I'm going to take this and apply a little of it into this little bottle cap thing off of a water bottle, which has since been recycled. This is where these things come in very handy. I'm just going to put a little dab about that much in there. And you don't need a lot. The idea being is I want to be able to control the application. And now I'm just going to seal this up and I'm going to be done with it. I don't want this glue bottle anywhere near the model, even as close as I just had it. In fact, if I had seen how close it was, I would have stopped dead. So there are plenty of modelers out there screaming at me not to do that. Next, I've got two of these micro brushes. I'm going to use them to actually apply the glue. So, we're going to start off by basically putting the glue on its target. You have to remember this takes a while to set up. That's another thing to remember with glue. So when you're doing something like this, make sure you're ready with your application. Zoom in a little bit more. So when you put it in, it won't be a problem. This already has these two areas bent in there. I think what happened is I got this in position and it actually broke in place. Getting those out is going to be very difficult. So this is probably the easiest way of fixing this. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my little brush here, my micro brush, and the glue has had a chance to start to dry because this does take a while to set up. Just going to put a little of it on there, not much. And I'm just going to gently apply it to where I want it to go. Just make a little dot there and a little dot there. Maybe a little bit more on that one. There we go. Probably a little bit too much. Anyway, less is more. Please also note that you want to do this with the shell off so you don't accidentally glue it all together. That would not be good. And so now I'm just going to take this and just gently place it on the top here and hold it in position. It's one of the reasons why I had it sit out there a little bit, because I wanted to set up quickly. Oh, I should have left it alone. And actually, no, because then it would have been bad. The other thing else I have to remember is once you glue this in, it is pretty difficult to get it apart, so you want to make sure you get your application done right. Again, another thing about applying too much glue, as I was saying before, you put too much on and it will take longer to dry. You don't need a lot more. Remember, less is more. In this case, you really don't need much. Alrighty, so that's about as straight as it's going to get. I'm going to now let it sit like this for a while. And hopefully, it's right there, and just hopefully have it dry to something resembling a realistic situation, so it'll look good enough, and I can then mess with it. Not perfect, but again, working with what I have. Okay, back on this after it's sat overnight, and you see it came out pretty well. Railings are more or less back in place. This one keeps popping out, but I'm going to try to avoid gluing that. Here's the front railing I glued back on, and there's a little glue over spray here in the front, but it doesn't look too bad. This glue kind of blends in, and as it gets drier, it'll fade in completely. It does take a long time to dry. Focus, camera focus, there we go. Yeah, so not too bad at all, to be honest. The only thing is this one railing here kind of got bent a little bit. I don't know what happened to it. I didn't straighten it, got bent a bit, but it works well enough. So I think I was able to save this shell pretty well. The only catch is now I need a chassis rather to go underneath the body. Now here are my options. this obviously is the, well, not this one over here. This one over here is what originally came with this engine, which just describes the other cylinder is not moving without actually being given help. And it's easy to understand why. This is just so badly rusted out. Now, I do have a motor. I know for a fact I have a motor in this particular device, in this particular one here, which you notice is exactly the same. This, again, is from the Delaware and Hudson unit that actually not the Delaware and Hudson, pardon me. It's, again, from the, I think that is the not Nickel Plate Road, the Northern Pacific, pardon me. Yeah, Northern Pacific unit I took apart to get parts for this particular engine here, for the shell and everything else. I also used its shell underneath the hood, pardon me, its body underneath the hood, I'm losing my mind here. Its frame underneath the hood of my D&H unit, which had a decoder that didn't work right on initially. I fixed that and got it working. And this is what was left. I then took the trucks off that unit and swapped them with the D&Hs so it would have silver trucks, leaving the D&H, what was underneath the D&H, this chassis right here, with the Northern Pacific black trucks, which, if you note, again, match perfectly. So essentially, all I would have to do is swap these two out. And that would be the end of it. And I think I'm going to do that. But first, I want to see exactly what's underneath the hood of this one and see exactly how bad it is. So I guess the first step would be to disassemble this model while I move this thing over here. While I move this shell to someplace safe. Then I'm going to put it back in the box right here. So note to self, this is safely stowed back in its box safely. Hopefully out of squash range or anything else range. I even put the top on it because I'm not going to mess around with it. Overall, the gluing went really well on this. There's no overspray with it. Well, a few little bits of overspray, but nothing too serious. Not like that mess of D&H unit that I bought. Okay, so here we have this engine. Let's see if we can get into it here. I've got myself a little screwdriver here. This actually, I think, came with a drive cage. Turn it counterclockwise and get this thing apart. So I'm going to take the, oh wow, look at how much corrosion is on this. I'd seen this initially, but you can see it here. You see how white this is right over here? The metal is physically started to corrode on this model. Now, in disassembling these again, the fuel tank acts as sort of a holder, if you will, for the center section to keep this together. These two screws are the main anchoring points. They're anchored into these little octagon spacers in the back, or tie downs, or whatever you'd like to call them. They hold all this together. Once you release these main points, you then basically have access to everything else. I'm just going to make sure these are as loose as possible. Now I have to gently pop these through. Where are my tweezers? Going to pop each one of these little plastic clips through. I'm just going to take the whole thing apart indiscriminately because I need to get the whole thing apart to really work on it. You don't want to break them. You need to just pop them through. Pardon the rough angle here. You just have to pull this apart. Ah, there it goes. Ah, came apart. All right, let's see what we have to work with here. Both trucks are now out, and you can tell this thing's in trouble already. Even smells kind of musty. Okay, here we have the side with the motor in it. Gonna get rid of this motor and get it out of here. Here are the two washers and spacers. Don't lose these. You lose these and you will have a short, because again, how it works is one side brings in the positive, one side brings in the negative. It's transferred to these contact plates on the bottom of each one of these units. It comes in again through this truck here, again, positive and negative, which gets transferred into each one of these contact pickups. And that in turn gets sent to the side of the shell of the frame, which is metal. That in turn contacts the motor. Right, actually not the motor, pardon me. In this case, it contacts the board. And the motor is insulated from it directly. It has pickups that are insulated. It in turn picks up its power from the light board. Let's see if I can get this thing out. Ooh, just lost one of those. So this motor here is the problem. Oh man, is it stiff. I tested this before and it just did not want to spin. I didn't even bother trying to do anything else because of this. I'm not sure this is going to be salvageable even. That's one of the reasons why I also went into a complete disassembly. And again, the only part I have to replace this with is already in a shell that is for an RS-11, so there's no point in me doing it. But let me try a few things. Let me go get some lubricants, and I'll give this a shot and see if there's something I can do with this thing. Okay, so I have my arsenal of tools together. We'll start with some conductive lubricant. This is critical because you can put this on brushes, you can put this inside motors, and unlike standard lubricant, which I'll get into in a second, it will actually not affect the conductive surfaces. In fact, it will enhance and clean those surfaces. Whatever the case, this is designed specifically for N-scale. Not for N-scale, pardon me, for just trains in general. Again, the difference is this is a very clear liquid. It's the easy command version of it, the easy lube version of it from Bachmann. I find it's not quite as good as the Atlas version, but it works well enough for what I'm going to do. I have a little bottle cap here I'm going to use to mix it with. Then I also have some oil that I designed specifically for this motor. This is Labelle 108, not 106, 108 oil. The reason for that is because this is N scale, and you need a thinner weight oil, and the higher the number, the lower the weight, apparently. This is designed specifically for, as you see on the box here, Z and N scale models. Now, I've heard people use the 106 as well, but I'm not going to take any chances since I don't have as much experience with this. I figure, let's just do it right. So, what I'm going to start with first is the conductive lube. Again, this doesn't come with any kind of applicator. It just comes with this little bottle. So what I like to do here is I like to put it in a little bottle cap. This is a dab of water in it already. And I find it mixes actually really well. I'm just going to put a little of this into this bottle cap. Just like so. Not much, just a little bit. And I have here also 2 micro brushes, these green ones. I'm going to use this green brush over here to apply some of this. I'm going to go right into where the brushes are inside this motor and see if I can get it to spin over. I want to try to avoid disassembling this because I don't think I'd ever get it back together again. I'm going to apply a little bit in the conductive area here, which I see is rusted out. May not necessarily be a smart way of doing things. Just rotate it back and forth really good. I'm tempted to actually take one of these brush covers off and put it in. The brushes on this unit, again, I should mention, let me take this hook off right here. The brushes are located right underneath these little cylinders here. I'm not sure I want to go in there at all. Again, I'm doing this more to get rid of the rust on here because this is just so terrible. I think I'm actually going to just not go that far with this. I don't know if that'll get into the brushes. I'm tempted to pull this off, I got to tell you, but something is telling me not to. Yeah, before that, let me actually try something else. Let me go in with my 108, pardon me. 107, there I go. You can see my old habits die hard. There we go. I got my little syringe thingy hooked up. Going to apply some right to where the bearings are, right underneath here. And we're going to see if this actually does anything. I'm actually trying to get a little bit more light on in here. I didn't have my light on. I can't believe I didn't think of that. I don't think it's going to help too much. Let's get a little bit more light for you. There we go. That's much better. Going to apply a little bit right to this bearing here. I don't want to put too much on, but it's flowing like crazy on me. And the bearings are located right on either side here. Put the grommet back on this. Grommet. And now I will attempt to rotate this and see if that does anything for it. Well, I feel a little bit of change now already. That's a good sign. So it is tightly bound. This should turn very easily, and it's not. It's really not happy. Let's go back in these bearings here. I have to remember to turn this paper over. I should have not done that. I should have probably not used this thing on the bottom like I have it. I have plenty of this packaging foam, so it doesn't matter too much. Self on that. Okay, so one more time on the 2 bearings. Let that oil work in. Oh wow, this is loosening up pretty quickly here. I'm not sure I can ever bring this motor back to life. It probably never will be. This is probably going to be a long-term project in itself. I probably want to take this whole thing apart and take a look at the brushes of it. Because I don't see how this is just by itself going to fix it. If you look at how much rust there is, look at this over here even. This whole side is rusted out. I could see the pictures when I bought this thing that it was rusty. I just didn't realize how bad it was. Well, I know what I can do here. Oh, I see something very simple. I feel like I was really being dense. Why don't I just put some right through that hole on the top here into the brush? Well, this is what I actually have here. This is where it is. Just thought of that. Maybe I can put some down that hole and get this to spin a little better. No, it's not going to work. I don't think this is the kind of motor you can really take apart beyond this point. I have a feeling this is probably done. Lubricant isn't expensive, but if this doesn't work, there's nothing really else I can do for it. I may keep this aside and try to fix it in later dates, but not now. Yep, that's in there. Trying to get as much lubricant as I can in there. I'm just trying to break this thing so it runs a little bit better. It is turning smoother as I rotate it. It may just be a matter of me letting this thing sit for a while, maybe to loosen up, but I don't think I'm going to be able to do much with it. And again, if this motor is shot, the only replacement I have is already in that frame, so it isn't worth bothering with. But I will say it is starting to feel a lot better as I turn it. Yep. Anyway, I'm going to let this dry and sit over there on the side. Meantime, it'd be really cool if I could find what I did with that grommet. Found it. So I found my grommet, put it back on here. That motor is pretty much going to be toast, I'm going to say. I'm going to put these parts someplace where I can keep them safe and use them for an upcoming project if I need it. Before I do, let me take a good look inside here. As you can see, there is a lot of corrosion on all the contacts. It's like this thing sat in water, and there's this horrible corrosion on the metal itself, which has turned white. I don't know if this is being picked up by the camera well enough. Same as on this side. Look at this. There's white inside here. The bottom where the decoder sat is white. It's like this thing sat in water in a very humid environment. I mean, I've never seen something this bad, to be honest, with a few exceptions. Yep. So, let me go put this thing together. I'm going to go ahead now, grab my parts bin and start separating this out. So I don't think I'm going to use this as a shell anymore. I could if I really did, if I really wanted to, but not sure. I think the easiest way might be just store it like this and just clip it back and put it back together as such. So if I do need parts for whatever reason for an RS11, I have them. So I'm just going to take my screwdriver and put these parts back together again. Probably the easiest way of dealing with it. Focus, camera, focus. There we go. Okay, so this runs really smooth. This is the other chassis that I had. I'm not going to do much lubrication here. I'm just going to do a little bit. This has been sitting for who knows how long, so I'm just going to hit it with just a little dab here. I'm just going to touch that area right there and touch this area right here with it. And that's all you need to do. That'll give the bearings the lubrication they need so they function the way they're supposed to. Some light on here. And that should basically do it for my lubrication on this model. Next, I have to, of course, upgrade this to DCC. And I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. Let me actually get rid of this work mat because I don't know why I've even kept it here for so long. I don't need it anymore. Ditch this and get it out of my way. And I will now start the actual modification process of this engine. I need to get a decoder for it. If I have one, I should. See here. I believe this is what I'm looking for. Here we go. I believe this is what I'm looking for right here. This is a DN163A. It works in the B23-7. I know that is the same basic chassis as this. I'm going to go ahead and basically pull this decoder out and see if this will function. This I think I had for 10 years or 12 years already. It's been sitting in storage on my shelf for quite some time because I got out of the N-scale for a while there and wasn't using it. So I can't think of a better time for this thing to finally get out of its bag and be used and made useful. And/or made useful, I should say. Okay. I can get away with working on the wood on my table directly here because this has not got a shell on it yet. It won't for a while. First step is to again release this. We don't have to pull it completely apart, just far enough to get the actual chassis to separate. So I can get that board out. I don't think this has the... Oh, it looks like I'm going to have to put solder on this board to make it fit. We'll see in a second. And here's that good old Kato. Ooh, this one says Kato on it. That's interesting. Someone may have swapped it out. I have another Atlas Kato one I can put in place. Not sure where that one came from. That's interesting. Looks like someone was messing with... This is definitely the 2006 version. It says it right on the top here. Let me go see if I can pull this thing apart carefully. What I'm going to do then, before I put the side on, maybe is put the grease in, but I can probably put it in without having to do that. I don't want to put too much grease on this. I'll probably just put a dab on a few of the things. Let me actually get that grease out now before I forget. Throw it ahead. Here it is. Labelle 106 gear grease. Kind of light for HO scale and kind of heavy for N scale, but I'm not going to put much on. Trick here is to apply it sparingly, shove it in here. I'm not squeezing it right now. I'm just rubbing in the little dot I had. I basically put a little dot in there and just shove it into the grooves of the worm gear so when it spins, it will actually lubricate the gear and it will not chip away at the plastic. And the reason why I do this is that metal on plastic, well, metal always wins and plastic gets destroyed. And if the gears are plastic, they will be shredded and you will have a big problem on your hand, or I will in this case, which is not good for me. Which is why I did that. Okay, so now we got this all set up to go. I'm going to now put the top back on. I will attempt to at least. And then once I get it in, I'm going to then attempt to get the rest of this thing assembled as such. Well, this thing was very temperamental. Ah! Finally! Ah! Now all I have to do is put the decoder in like I wanted to originally. Let's go and match this in place. Okay, so the two boards are going to go in like that. So we're going to slip this in sideways. Okay, take 179. I'm going back to reassembling this, but the right way. I'm going to install the decoder as I put it together, because if not, I'm never going to get this in right. I just can't. I really can't. So, just going to go in like that, slip it in place, make sure all this is assigned, and then grab my board right over here and slip this on top. Let's turn this upside down. These two plates should line up with that, with these two contacts. I'm going to now try to get these in. There it is. That one's in. That one's in. It's almost disturbing. They both come together now after all the hell I just went through to align them. Now they go right into the hooks, or sort of. This one's close enough. Actually, there it is. It is hooked in just barely. So I'm just going to now slide this inside this little contact clip, this little metal piece here you see with my finger. Going to push that in there, and that's good. Now that's in place. Now, if this thing doesn't jump out, the problem is it's got all that force in the contacts. It wants to jump out of place, which is no good, because if it comes out, it won't work. I now need to grab my top and put that on top of this. I'm going to put... Well, that one's got the screw on one side. This one doesn't. Let's put it in here. There we go. I think I got it. Not quite. It's not locked in far enough. Think that made good contact right there. I'm going to go double check this now to make sure that that's working well enough. Ooh, let me see if I can mess up with it right here with my tweezers. These things are a godsend. Oh, good. I got it through. Ha ha ha. That worked. See, it poked right through. That is insane that actually pulled off. By simply depressing this a little bit, I pushed that through the hole. So now that's safe and it won't do anything crazy. Oh, that's insane. Well, finally a little good luck. Now let's get this whole thing back together again before it gets any ideas. Oh, I want to put my trucks in first. The reason why you do this first is that these trucks will not necessarily snap in once you tighten them with the screws. So I got these trucks and they just go right in where they were. Pretty simple. Again, these two contact lines go right on top. Once I have the whole assembly together, I will put that fuel tank back on. I don't think it's the right one for this. I may have to pull the other one out. Though it doesn't make much of a difference. It's realistic looking on both ends. Just grab this and tighten it. The same on the other end. Again, the washers were in place. I made sure of that. This will go right in over here. I get my hand out of the shot. Sorry about that. It's just a very awkward move. There it is. I'm just going to screw that one down like I did the other one. Oh, I must be getting arthritis in my hands. And there we are. It's together. Zoom out a little bit here so it's a little bit easier for me to work, a little bit easier for you guys to see now. My system will cooperate with me. There we are. Okay. So I just need to tighten these a little bit more to make sure they're in good shape. And I don't believe how that just suddenly worked. I got so lucky. I pressed down with my tweezers again on this contact plate right here, and it pushed this contact right into that special slot it's supposed to go into. And I just don't believe how lucky I was with that. Lucky. Okay, it's in there. Okay, and that literally is it. Now I have... Okay. And just like that, I believe I have fixed this thing and turned defeat into victory. Now let's now program her. Let me get my programming track over here, which I keep to the side. This is engine number 4185. I always like the Burlington Northern. That's one of the reasons why I picked this engine up. I really like Burlington Northern RS11s. Don't ask me what the idea is. So let's go, again, program. I got my Digitrax DCS50 here. Let's go to program mode, DIR, 4185. Actually, no, it's the wrong thing to do. No. Let me get back out of here. I did that wrong. Getting too anxious here. I'm treating this like the other programming system. I have to go to prog, make sure I'm on DIR, and then go to loco and then 4185. 4185, and let's do CVRW. Hopefully that took. Let's see if it did take. Get rid of that. Exit out of programming mode and go back to the stock mode. Again, this is the thing I've been using. I can't quite get in the shot. My apologies. It's just the way this camera works. Let me try this now. Go loco, 4185. Loco again. And yep, that worked. It's alive. It's alive. It's alive. But there are no headlights. What's going on here? No headlights. Oh, that's charming. Turn my lights off. Maybe it's too bright for me to see them. Oh, yeah, there it is. I got lights. Very weak, though. That's the problem. These are very weak lights. As again, this is a Digitrax thing. Not that... Still think TCS is a notch above them, but these work well enough. And so just like that, I now have a fully functioning 4185 RS11 from Burlington Northern. And that's going to do it for this particular project. I hope everyone enjoyed watching it. I'm sorry if this got a little long-winded in sections, but live and learn, we'll have problems. I now have 2 decoders I have to send back to Digitrax, apparently. If you like this video, give it a like. If not, thumbs down it. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, and as always, keep the metal side down.